What's up, everybody? This is Enlightened Masculinity. I'm Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga and captain of IMC Nation, be captain of IMC Nation, the highest rank under the founder. I live with the founder here at IMC Base 1 in Campbell, California, and that's next door. I live with two other guys, Guardians, Fernando and Sultan, high-level guys in IMC. You know, you could see the coat of arms right there. Up there, that's the IMC sigil, or IMC coat of arms, Beast coat of arms. You got the coat of arms tattooed there on the chest. That's IMC Beast coat of arms, all about it, okay? And this is Enlightened Masculinity, streamed to IMC TV, but also posted on my Enlightened Masculinity podcast channel. So, you know, you could, because it's public, so there is a level of information and disclosure that is public, and it's going on the podcast platform. So you can watch hundreds of my episodes there. You know, it's called Enlightened Masculinity. It's on Apple and Spotify and everywhere. All the apps. And this is the weekly show that's streamed every cycle, every Wednesday morning for me right now at 9 a.m. Pacific to the IMC TV YouTube, growing very well. A lot of the guys have their streams posted up there. So you're seeing everyone's philosophy, a lot of great graphics. You know, it's really well organized, and there's a future when it comes to, you know, I've already seen templates for building like a Netflix style website for IMC TV. There's other guys that are on deck. They want shows. So we'll have 17 to 20 shows coming up. And that's like round the clock, really, round the week. Just always something to tune into. What was somebody saying? I personally would like to interview other guys. Like we have Josiah, we have Oracle, we have Prophet and Pyro and Master Myself, and all these guys that have shows, TK, you know, tons of guys that have shows. I'd like to interview them on my show. On my Wednesday morning Enlightened Masculinity, I'd like to introduce you to those guys even more than, because they're not going to talk about themselves the way I would talk about them, because they'd be bragging. And I'll ask them questions. You'll get to know them a lot more. And this is really, so many of my Enlightened Masculinity episodes have been, I mean, let's say I have 295 or 296 posted episodes right now. Many of them had interviews with other IMC guys. Not to mention, many times there are IMC guys online that they just unmute and ask questions, so you hear them, versus like kind of featuring a guy in an episode, like I've done with Master Myself many times, and the guys that are Guardians, Alex Palacio. You know, these are high-ranking guys in IMC. It's a worldwide organization, an integrated philosophy movement, and I came to it as a yogi, as whatever a modern Western yogi could look like. You know, I'm a white guy from the United States of America, patriotic, and came from, you know, a right-wing military background family, and versus becoming that like Eastern guy that like doesn't, you know, has dreadlocks and it smells bad typically and very thin, and, you know, doing the yoga stretches. There are those kinds of guys, and there's an impressiveness about it. Obviously, it appealed to me. I liked the flexibility, the ease in the face, and the breathing. Then when I would see these guys move through very, very flexible poses, flexibility in a way that you don't really see in Western stretching. Even in Bikram yoga, you don't really see. Bikram seems very, very Westernized, and there's not a lot of hip external rotation. And arguably the yoga I was doing had too much of that. That's why I was effing up my pelvis and my knees and a little bit. Also my mentality, because it's not the posture itself. That's like saying the fork makes you fat. No, it's the person, how you're using the fork. Are you shoveling food in your mouth? So the yoga pose doesn't really hurt you. It's just, you know, how you do it. And, you know, the teacher's influence plays a big role in that. If you don't know what you're doing, you're there learning, and the teacher's pushing you, you might hurt yourself. So good teacher's invaluable. And so when I came to IMC, I was accomplished in several things, and I was very skilled in several things, including yoga. That's what I became known for. I was a PhD student at the time for engineering. And, you know, but I was still suffering with relationships, with communication. And I had certain aptitudes and abilities, but it was very out of touch with the whole social game. And some people don't even like to think of it as a game, but they are either ignorant or hiding that they know it's a game, and they're hiding it from you because they don't want you to think of it as a game. They want to keep thinking of it as a game, but they don't want you to think of it as a game, because then you'll try to win. They want you to think of it as some kind of you know, participation trophy event where just showing up makes it worthwhile. And at the most basic level, it is worthwhile just to show up. But then you want to start winning, because it doesn't feel good to the system, and it's not abnormal you're not wrong for not feeling good if nobody listens to you, everybody ignores you, you're disregarded, your opinion isn't considered, and nobody finds you attractive, nobody wants to be with you. Like, keep playing the game. That's like, you'd have to be a sociopath to not be affected by nobody liking you, nobody wanting to align with you, nobody wanting to do business with you, nobody wanting to have sex with you. Like, it's one thing to legitimately turn things away, but a lot of people that say that they have had enough and they have to turn it away, they're not really turning away. They're not turning away choice, even if they are. So they're really lonely and have justified, rationalized their lonely existence for why they're not wrong for being so lonely. Everybody likes to make themselves right. Everybody thinks they're right in how they live and their ideas. And so in your social condition, admitting that you don't have game, that you don't know how to get what you want, that you're not satisfied with your relationships, and some of that is having an outside reference. If you don't see what a good relationship is ever, because a lot of people, I mean, shit, you grew up with your parents or whatever caregivers, and probably wasn't that good of a relationship, but you saw how they sounded when they talked with each other, and how they treated each other, the level of affection. As you become an adult, you'll want a better affection than what you saw mom and dad giving each other a lot of times. So, at some point, if ever, you must come across a model or an example of something better. Or you can, I guess, incrementally, piecewise improve your condition, but it's not likely that you'll make a leap and a bound. That's not how evolution happens. Evolution happens through small mutations. So if you're just trial and error going to be improving your life without seeing outside examples that are much better than you to model after, it's going to be incremental and slow, and you'll make mistakes along the way. Trial and error evolution is slow and painful, but it could happen. But in a world where there's so many people and a lot of people are chasing their different paths, but there are similar paths. There's only so many different paths. They have their different little nuances. Of the person that grew up in New York City is going to be different than the person in Africa, or different in Europe or China or whatever. But there's going to be that person on that purpose and manifested in different areas of the planet. In this complex mosaic of culture, there's differences. You'll find guys that are more advanced, not to mention age. So even if you're advanced for your age, you find someone that's twice your age and they've been on it for longer than you, they're going to have advancements ahead of you. They figured things out. It might not be perfect. You don't want to make the mistakes of your forefathers. You don't want to make the mistakes of your teachers. You are supposed to outdo your teachers. That's how the art and science improves. It doesn't improve by you not outdoing your teachers. So you're going to not make mistakes where they made mistakes, or you're going to adapt where they were unable to adapt to the new times or whatever, and you'll outdo them. That's fine. If they're more right than you in more areas, like, you learn from them, and that will leap ahead your evolution, where you don't have to trial and error everything. They can give you solutions that, are ahead of your time. And so we see this when you have 10 billion people on the planet. I mean, there's people ahead of you, and some of us have made the humble enough decision to admit, I'm not satisfied with my communication, with my game, with my relationships, with my happiness in life, and I want help. And they sought help. And so the guys that have come across AZD and IMC Nation, I have no problem shouting out AZD. I know my women are watching. I know other girls that, are interested in me. They're watching. I don't mind admiring AZD. That's what it is. Like, I am here, and I'm so much of a creation of the information I've learned from him, the beingness I've absorbed from him, my interactions with him. And that's fine. It's like big brother, dude, or like young uncle or something. He's like 10 years, 9.5 years older than me or whatever. Like, that's what it is. And, because any woman that lost interest in me because of how much I admired the other man needs to go right away. The woman that is with me or wants to be with me should admire what's going on here. And this evolution, that's why the women that listen to my lectures or my old podcast episodes or stick around for a long time, it's going to be more and more admiration. You're not going to admire me less and less. Like, why would a woman be with me even though there's another woman with me, or there's other women with me and they're exclusive? Why would she even want to do that? Like, when there's so many other choices? Because the evolution here is really fucking real. That guys don't really evolve out there. Those guys, there's different groups and pockets of self-help and personal development and communication and public speaking and this or that industry, like real estate or whatever. And guys, naturally, they'll improve in whatever skills, what they're doing. But is what they're doing have anything to do with real, authentic, sincere, strong, but also vulnerable? It's just and strategic interactions with women and mates, because everything they're doing, man, this thing just popped up on my thing. I gotta close it. Everything they're doing is for their mate choice. This was like a big realization I needed to come to. I was already into yoga, and I had to face it. And a lot of yogis, they won't face it because they keep exerting the force of will of their conscious effort to say a lie. They're enforcing a lie, which is that everything they're doing is not for choice of mate, that they're excelling at yoga, not, and it has nothing to do with that they want to get the girl. They're excelling at whatever education or whatever industry, whatever business, whatever they're doing, even if it's drugs. They're trying to excel at it to get the girl. Somehow they think they have worked out in their mind, and they won't admit it. They probably, a lot of times, can't even admit it to themselves. But they know. Just like you know if what you're about to do is right or wrong, like you know. But then you start looking for the outside to say yes or no. The reason, the motivation, the ambition for a man to be the best at whatever he is doing is for choice of mate and survival. He wants to, that's primary survival. But a lot of guys, especially if you're listening to this show, I mean, you have access to internet and some device or whatever, you're probably surviving. You'd like to survive better, but you probably got food, a roof, somewhere to sleep, like, you know, someone who knows you're there. Like, you might not be surviving that well. Like, you don't have a tribe. Like, I have a tribe. I live in a house with guys that are very strong, very loyal, very intelligent. Imagine any of those, not including the others, like loyalty, but not strong or intelligent. Who cares if they're loyal? It's like a sponge on the ground. Or what about strength without loyalty or intelligence? Or even just strength and loyalty, but not intelligence. Damn, that's like a rhinoceros, a strong, loyal, if it was like your pet rhino or pet elephant, but not intelligent. Even those are intelligent, but not like human intelligence. Or if you were intelligent and strong, but not loyal. Well, that's just for that's like a bad enemy. Intelligent and loyal, but not strong. Okay, well, what kind of strength? Are we talking just physical or emotional strength? Because I could make use of an intelligent, loyal man if he's not physically strong. But like if he's not emotionally strong, then he's just going to break. And then I can't use that intelligence or loyalty. We probably need some other qualities too, but I mean, that's a nice triangle there, the intelligence, loyalty, strength. So I live with these guys. Girls don't know this. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like to live in the house, of course. And they don't know what it's like to be with a guy that has this. Girls are used to having the advantage in the mating game, relationships, dating, even just fucking around. They are used to the advantage throughout, all the way through marriage. And so they act as if they have the advantage. But when I don't need you, we're not going to live together. You're going to visit me more than I'm going to visit you. I have a bunch of guys in the house. You have to behave yourself. You have to have control of your volume. You can't be here and get loud. In fact, you can't even get here if you're going to be loud. If you've been loud, like you can't come over. And it's like, well, but the evolution psychologically and emotionally, and I was going to talk about, the episode was called Benefits of Yoga and Meditation. So I'll transition this into that. The evolution of living with the guys that are philosophers, also transparent in their own ways, very communicative. It's not that we're like so emotionally vulnerable with each other. It's that when something's bothering you, you voice it. When you have a stink face because something's annoying you or perturbed you, or a relationship problem or money problem or family problem or whatever, the ability to let the people know that something's up so they don't misjudge your stink face for something they've done. Because we all like each other, we're all friends. We don't want each other to be down. So, you know, if I've said something that offended you, which maybe has happened sometimes, then I want to know if that's the reason for your stink face. If there's something I can do, because I'm a human also, we mirror each other. And if you're walking around with a stink face and defeated posture, it's going to affect me at some point. If you were walking around with a smile, laughing, in a confident posture, that would also affect me. That's what I want. Now, if I was by myself, I wouldn't deal with your negativity, but I also wouldn't benefit from your positivity. And there's something about us all being around each other that we carry our shoulders back and our chest up and our chin up, and there's just more goodness. We want to give each other that goodness. And over time, months, years now, that has accumulated. We've created a big gap, a chasm between us and guys that don't live in bases. And even us and the other guys that live in the other bases. There's a big difference in the evolution here versus the evolution there. Guys don't know this out in the lone world. I see somebody commenting on the YouTube right now. I know you, that you don't have this evolution. You're living with a woman and a young kid or a couple young kids or no kids. You're just living with your woman. Your evolution is not the same. You are evolving to be a good fit for her. That's your evolution. She is molding you gradually. And when you inevitably separate, you'll see that it didn't improve your game one bit when it comes to other women. And it's going to be much more difficult for you to get another mate. Now, there will be some cases of that not being, I mean, I'm talking in generalities. So maybe you could get on Dragon's Lair. Maybe you could learn some education, whatever. You're way far behind. The evolution is longer and more arduous than it looks from the outside. And it's worth it if it's worth it to you. If it's not worth it to you, then you'll just be that normie guy that hop skips from one girl to another in a monogamous relationship. If you're even lucky enough to be that good, you have intelligence and good body and whatever you got going on, good income. And, a lot of guys won't even be able to do that. They'll just dissipate and wither and spiral down into, really bad habits. And even the guys that are monogamous, you develop bad habits because you avoid each other sometimes. If you're living together, Jesus Christ, you avoid each other way more than you should. And it's not that you shouldn't even see that each other that much throughout the week. But just the act of avoiding each other and having that is an emotional pattern that you're inlaying. You're laying it down in your nervous system, this habit of avoiding. And that's terribly toxic. And you'd be surprised, even out of that relationship, you carry that habit of avoiding, and you'll carry it into your next relationship and your next relationship. And that's why the multiple relationships is such an evolving stimuli for the man, because it's what he wants. He doesn't really want relationships, but he wants multiple relations. And to do that, it's got to be such a good experience for the girl, not only just being with you, but the idea of you when she's not with you. So the idea that you're winning and you're growing and you're making more money and you're winning, conquering, like that you keep leveling up. And so she'll keep leveling up when she gets to hang out with you. And to do that, she's, there's a lot of ingredients to that. And it's not necessarily it's the subject I was talking about. I was going to transition this to yoga and meditation. So, it is related. All of these things are related, because what I'm talking about is a sensitivity of awareness in your own character, your own communication, when you can feel that something is off. You can feel that person's communication was aggressive or passive or dismissive or sad, or you can feel the emotions of what they're saying. And you can sense in you. The primary thing is ethics, and ethics gets misunderstood. I know, because I've misunderstood it. The word, it's a very strong word, and it's, misdefined and misconstrued. And if we just think of ethics as the code or set of values or behaviors that you have, and that something being more ethical or less ethical would be beliefs or values that lead to better survival or worse survival. That survival is not like a light switch. You either live or die. Survival is how good do you survive? How well? And how well you survive could be measured in dollars and possessions and property and all of that. But on a deeper level, because you don't take any of that with you when you die. You weren't born with any of that. Even if you were born into a rich family, you were born naked and alone. Not really alone. You were with somebody, but like confused. And you'll die alone. And so you don't take any of that with you. But how do you feel about yourself when you die? How do you feel about your life and the choices you've made and the interactions and the people you're leaving behind and those relationships? Did you resolve what you were here, what you could have resolved? How do you feel about your decisions? That feeling is your survival. If you're feeling really good about your decision, not feeling really good high on weed or drunk or coffee or, lots of candy or fatty food or whatever, sex or oversleeping, like television, Netflix, like those are externally stimulated good feelings, even though the stimulation, the effect is inside. So if I'm stimulated by a show or something, I feel pleasure. If I go for a hike, I feel pleasure inside. I like the nature that is experienced inside of me. And there's a different feeling, and that's the feeling of the decision to go to nature, the decision to buy those shoes, the decision to help so-and-so out or donate that money or, chew that person out or do some more business. Like these are decisions. And do I feel better? Do I feel good about my decisions? And there's an opportunity cost. So there's a loss, there's a gain. To do this activity, I can't do that activity. So I feel bad about not doing that one, but I feel good about doing this one. Is it a net positive? And can I get to that one next? When I do that one, I won't be able to do the third one, but I'll feel good about doing the second one, unless I would have felt better about doing the third one. So I should do the third one. And then we also need to rearrange our priorities because, people are confused of their values. And so a woman may feel that she's making a high survival decision to chase an independent career and she doesn't need any man and chase no femininity activities. So she has no idea how to put on her makeup, how to dress, how to work out and make herself look good, how to be soft and supple, how to be nurturing around the home, how to raise a kid, how to do anything in interior design, support a man, how to communicate softly with a man. When she's upset, how to convey that she's upset without blaming him or getting hostile or aggressive, because that shuts, let's say a guy like me, that shuts me off to caring what you're going through. If you're going to mistalk to me, I'm going to disregard you because I don't need to deal with you. You're not my responsibility. You're my responsibility when you interact with me the way I want interacted with. And it's like, that's a high demand. Yeah, you can go and settle down and make sure you adhere to the code that I've laid out for you if you want to continue being with me. Or you can go and make whatever decisions you want to make for your life. And ultimately you'll feel good or bad about them because they were ethical or not. For me, it's very ethical to not entangle my time or energy solving a hostile girl's problem. And I've learned through cause and effect, through modeling examples, through study, reflection, through meditation, that certain decisions I feel better about afterwards. Even there's a initial period of all kinds of roller coaster feelings and indecision. But then after that turbulence settles, then there's knowing I did the right thing. And as I age and gain wisdom and whatever, maybe not age, but as I accumulate wisdom, I see more of the right actions, even though there's turbulent feelings in those, but I have a code of ethics. And so being sensitive to the effect of my decisions on my system, how that feels, not just emotional fluctuations, but how am I internally measuring my actions, decisions, my thoughts, and my communication? Like I used to say, what you said or didn't say, or what you've done or didn't do. You either feel good or bad about it, more or less. It's not a light switch. So good or bad makes it seem like it's light or dark. It's a gradient. It's anywhere in between, more or less good, more or less bad, somewhere in between. All the way, the worst feeling is you die. The best feeling is you live forever. Everywhere in between. Then, so living good, these ethics. Yoga and meditation helps become sensitive to the body in at least these two ways. One way is by connecting my conscious intention with the neurology as I do the movement or the breathing or the conscious relaxation. I'm connecting my consciousness to where the tension was or where the muscle action needs to happen or how the alignment needs to be. I'm basically grounding my attention into my body by interfacing my intelligence, not with ideas, not with mathematics or accounting or words or future worries or plans or whatever. Nothing. I'm not in the mental, I'm in my body. I'm thinking about the muscles and tissues and bones and the air and the sensations. And so I'm grounding my attention in my body. And so I get better at that because you've become way much better, whatever that grammar is. You become a lot better at ideas and living in ideas. And yeah, you got a body. You can still work your 5 digits on your hands and 5 digits on your feet and turn a steering wheel and take a pen and type a cell phone. Like your body is functioning to that degree, but you are out of tune with your emotions. So like if I was the radio 95.5 or whatever, right now is playing through the atmosphere. And I could turn on my radio, but if it wasn't tuned to 95.5, I would not pick up any of the music that was on 95.5. I'd pick up static or some other station or whatever. I'm not tuned into my emotions. I'm not tuned into how I feel about things. So I'm hearing a bunch of other things, but I'm not hearing the music on 95.5. I'm not perceiving how I'm feeling about my decisions. And the more I do yoga and meditate, for two reasons. One, I ground my attention in my body, and so I become more aware of fluctuations in my body, subtle fluctuations, because I'm tuned in and I'm sensitive. 95.4 is very different from 95.5. So that subtle difference makes a difference. And I said there were two ways. The second way, and they're intermingled because we're talking about the same phenomenon, which is, perceiving your own ethical feeling about the decisions and things that you've done or didn't do. So the second way is that you create space between the physical experience and you as a witness of your physical experience, as a witness of your mental experience. By having space between you and your experience, you notice the experience more, which is related but not the same as grounding your attention in your body. Because an animal is also very grounded in his body. Arguably, a wild animal, the most grounded in his body. He's not thinking about ideas. Maybe the most intelligent have some images of, their family members or some prey that they're going after or something. But they're very grounded in their body. It doesn't necessarily make them ethical, but very grounded. Then there's this kind of separation that happens in a spiritual being where you see yourself as this soul or this seer or witness of mind, body, emotions. You're behind it and you notice. And that takes practice. And meditation and yoga are these tangible tools. Like this is a phone. I could just be talking about a phone. And if you never knew what a phone was, and I'm just describing it, I have to describe it to you. You could form some idea. But as soon as you hold this phone in your hand, then it becomes like a device. It becomes real to you. Oh, I can swipe. Oh, that's what swiping is. A touch screen. Oh, that's what a touch screen is. The power button, the volume button. Oh, and it becomes a tool. So meditation and yoga are not just ideas that I've described to you that you is in the air in your head and you got to like form an image about it. It's a thing that you do. It's a tool. It's a device that you do that I was talking about separation from the seer. And so that's the thing that you do to practice creating this space or the separation. It's very, it's a low understanding that people have, or it's an understanding that a lot of people don't have, let's say, that yoga is actually separation. Yoga keeps getting translated as union. It is a union of something and a separation of something else. Just as that door right there is an exit, but it's also an entrance. I exit my cell and I enter the house. Or I exit the house and enter my cell. Every exit is an entrance. So the union of yoga is a separation of myself from the impermanent phenomena of my mind, body, and emotions and energy. These fluctuations, it's impermanent. It fluctuates. There's a permanent viewer or seer or experiencer that is not the fluctuations, because the fluctuations are being observed or experienced. So yoga is that separation, that clarifying the separation that I am not the body, not like an animal. An animal is grounded, but identifies with the body. Someone that meditates, or so let's say has some dissociation or tremendous separation from their mind, body, emotions, they are not grounded. They may be so spiritually liberated, but they're not grounded. And so they're going to fail at the game of life, because the game of life feeds the material body sensations and signals that you're supposed to use to navigate life better. And if you're separated from your body, you're going to be misreading or just not reading at all the signals. But if you're just going off the signals without separation, then you're going to be a stimulus response being, a push button animal. So there needs to be separation and groundedness at the same time. And this is yoga. And when you do this, then, like I said, when I came to IMC and I was already very good at yoga, and I saw that even yoga, my spiritual liberation practice, had at its root the desire for mate choice. Yoga is a very special subject, and there are a few subjects like it that does have this blissful spiritual liberating aspect to it. It's possible to go into yoga and not be doing it for mate choice. But, I would say in my experience that even in those cases, the fuel, the fire in a man that would be his ambition to go get a choice of mate is what is used to become an outstanding yogi. So it's still using that God-given, nature-given impulse and put, energy in the man driven towards mate choice, that he uses that to become spiritually liberated. But, by finding that when I came to IMC, that my decisions were lowering my survival because I wasn't feeling good about life. It's difficult to feel good about life when people don't like you or girls don't like you and you're not able to keep anybody around and you're a lone wolf. Like, there's a reason why a lone wolf is a lone wolf. People don't like them. I mean, there's Lone Wolf IMC here on the stream. That's different. But there's also a drop of truth in that. It's okay for the sheep and normies not to like you. But once, you find a tribe, Lone Wolf isn't a lone wolf in IMC. He's Lone Wolf IMC. One day he'll outgrow that. Like, there was a guy in my Boy Scout troop growing up, and his name was Tommy Westerland or something. And he was younger than me, and he went by Tommy up until, like 12 or whatever. And we had these plaques that we would move these guys as plaques as you achieved a different rank, all the way up to Eagle Scout. And if you achieved Eagle, then your plaque was like colored a certain color and it was left there forever. And our troop had like so many Eagle Scouts, and we were badass troop. We always won the competitions, whatever. So when the Scoutmaster gave the plaque to Tom when he joined the troop, he put Tom on it. And he was like, because I figured when you turn 18 and afterwards, you don't want to be known as Tommy. That probably when you're a dad or whatever, and you come back and you bring your son back to this Boy Scout troop, you don't want to show off your plaque, Tommy. I don't know if he was right or wrong, but I don't know if Lone Wolf becomes a base leader and has a base under him, becomes a coach or a mentor and has a whole following. How much is he still going to be a lone wolf? At some point, there's going to be like some cognitive dissonance where he's like, I keep calling myself lone wolf, but I'm not a lone wolf. I don't know. Maybe that's just something I see. It could be anything. Lone wolf is a badass name. It's a shame that name has a lone wolf part of it. Like, wish it had a different meaning or something. All right. So yoga and meditation has improved my game by making me sensitive to decisions, how I've communicated. It's helped me, obviously, my ability to relax. It's a difficult thing. And people will judge and criticize, especially women, because that's the only thing they have is judgment and criticism. That's all women have. They don't have anything else. They have judgment and criticism, and that's how they can manipulate you to do whatever. They have praise also, which can make you feel good. But to be free of their criticism so that they don't negatively affect you, you actually need to be free of their praise and admiration. Which is, man, that's a motherfucker. Because I like how it feels when a woman admires me so much and calls me this or that admiring name. And, it's on levels after levels after levels, like levels of worship, where it's like, I don't even want to use that word because I don't think it shouldn't be that, but that word would be misinterpreted by people. But if I attach to that at all, then it's going to be very difficult when the criticism comes, which inevitably will, because she was raised on this planet and she doesn't know how to interact. And however many hours she spent with you, she's spent many more hours around her father, her family, her school teacher. She has spent more hours around that male school teacher in a lot of cases than you. And if you've been spending more hours with her, then you've either changed her or all those hours came at once and you stopped changing her. You stopped being a positive influence on her. She started nagging on you and withering you down, and you're getting more and more defeated. So if you spent 8 hours a day with her for like a month, dude, by the end of that month, you're not going to be able to stand each other because another personality has come out in her, whatever you liked in the beginning. So you need space and distance so that she can give you her best. You give her your best. And over time, she gradually changes authentically, deeply, congruently throughout, and becomes a better fit for you. And you got to be able to walk away too. So that lone wolf mentality, you got to be able to be that lone wolf. But if you're part of a tribe, then you have that camaraderie, which is something missing to all the guys that get girls. Guys that get girls, or even a guy that just gets one girl and go get married, like the guy on YouTube I was talking about that was commenting. And you lose your tribe. Now, you may have some activities like you go to jiu-jitsu or you go to work or whatever, and there's some guys there, and it's a surface level of existence, man. How deep is that going? I could go to jiu-jitsu too, and those guys are square bears, super square. I got to keep the conversation entertaining. If I didn't, it would go so normie. It would just be like nauseating. My internal organs and my insides turns black and white as they talk. Like as they talk, my third eye turns black and white. I revert to 1920s television. It's almost like without sound. I'm like, dude, this is so archaic. There's no animation here. It's unanimated. And I know that that's your experience too. You're not in a more interesting part of the world. You're not have more interesting friends than these guys. You know, when you see their tattoos and their fashion and their hair, it's like they're interesting. They just don't know how to talk interesting. That's the maximum level of interesting that they've had, that they've cultivated over their life. But their mindset is not interesting. I can tell because it's what I do. It's what I do. If you did aerospace engineering, you'd know a lot about aerospace engineering. If you did golf, you'd know a lot about golf. When you looked at somebody swing it, you'd be able to tell everything that I couldn't tell. I can tell from someone's communication, their mindset. And girls will fall for the level of creation that a guy has achieved when she meets him, not realizing that that is the maximum, his maximum output of creativeness that's accumulated over 30 years of him doing it. Versus with me, that's why I say when you do it, when you're with me or interact with me for a long time, you see that I keep growing at a fast rate. That if somebody was on par with me when you met me, soon I'll be outdoing them. And a lot of girls will blow off and can't handle that because they actually want to control the man in the relationship. They want the advantage of power. And when faced with the truth that they are in advantage, that they have power, and that it's not going to work that way here, it's going to be different, they don't feel safe, they don't feel secure, and they got their own agenda that they've been programmed to think that that's the right way to do, like a woman chasing a career. You'll feel right because you're doing what you were told, but deep down you feel wrong because it is wrong. So you got to keep your attention on that one so that you don't feel the other. And that's where you get women, they're all in their ideas in their head, and they're not actually feeling their body. And that is not a good mother. That's not a good lover. That's not a good girlfriend. That's not a good woman. What is a woman if she's not grounded in her feelings? A liability. She's a time bomb. So is a man, but the society is so suppressive on men that a man couldn't really blow up at all. He'll be imprisoned, you know? So men got to control themselves so much. And that's where you get like the suppressed man. Women, they are time bombs. They're not in touch with their feelings, and they think it's okay to be ballistic, to misbehave, to be passive aggressive. And that's both for men's misery and for her own misery. She will be more miserable in the end because she'll get nobody. Or whoever she gets will be putting up with that. And it's just going to be a terrible echo chamber of passive aggressiveness. She'll jump dick to dick for the rest of her life until she's a lonely spinster. And that's what it is. Sorry, that's what it is. The culture today is not the culture of 40 years ago. Don't expect that if you're a woman today in your 20s or 30s, that you're going to grow up to be like your grandma. You're not. It's a different culture. It's changed so fast. Since the atom bomb, culture has changed so fast that don't think your decisions, your independent woman, feminist decisions are going to play out to the same effect that of life that your grandma had or your great grandma or even your mom. It's different. Even your older sister, she's 10 years older. It's not even going to be the same. Versus the man is suffering because that's how women are. And so he's not finding a good woman. And when he does, he doesn't really know how to be that good of a man. I mean, maybe he's better than average. So he gets a better than average girl in behavior and looks and everything. But he's suffering. But he's also going to keep getting richer and more connected if he does life right, which a lot of guys aren't because they're turning video games and reclusive and man caves and antisocial and whatever. So you got to become sensitive to when you feel up or down about your decisions or not, and look for examples and models that are doing that, inspire you, that are better than you, so that you become separate from your patterns and look to change your patterns to do better. Become separate, change your patterns, separate, change your patterns. And this is the process. This is daily evolution. To recognize your patterns, separate from the patterns of your mind, body, emotions, beliefs, speaking patterns, listening patterns, patterns of feeling, thinking, and interpreting, anticipating, worrying, whatever. Sexuality, how you feel about it before, after, during, how you communicate, mistimed communications, so many things. Separate, but then also look to do better through examples or inspiring figures, or even if you're just using your imagination, but you're using outside references to help you create a better, more ideal version or circumstance that you could have played out. And then redo it, remake your patterns, then separate, then remake, then separate. And that separation is going to be through yoga and meditation. And the doing it better is going to be through like character research, character study, and lecturing, studying lectures. That's why I joined Dragon's Lair. That's why I joined the camps. Go to imcbase1.com is where the advanced training are. And I have a page there for the Dragon's Lair, so you can sign up for both. It's only for men. Girls, if you're watching, you can DM me on Instagram, PhD Yogi Chris, PhD Yogi Chris, one word. And if any of the models are watching, we have another gig coming up on that. So shout out to the IMC guys that joined the Zoom, and anybody watching, share it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and let everybody know about it. And I'll see you all next Wednesday on this stream, or you could go to my podcast, look it up on any app, Enlightened Masculinity, see all the past episodes. A lot of great stuff there. So, just find titles that you like. See you next time. Jay Guru Dev. Os.